Hey guys, I'm looking today at Modern Warfare 2. It's funny that after Modern Warfare 4, or rather after Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, they did Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and then, which is Call of Duty 5, which is, it's just all confusing. But yeah, this game is amazing. This game rocks. This game is what a lot of people remember, I think, even from their childhood, some people's childhoods for sure. So how do I feel about this game? I really like it. I mean, it's kind of a hard thing where I see it almost similar to, at least in gameplay, to Halo 1 and Halo 2, where I think Halo 1 had great gameplay, but I think also this game has great gameplay just in different ways. So everything is back, all the main mechanics are back, but they're just better in this case. So for example, weapons now have really crazy attachments like, little heartbeat sensors, radar things. You have a whole new variety of different weapons in this game. Like the 1887 is just the weirdest, like a pump action shotgun that you can dual wield. Like this was still when the game was still like, hey, let's have a little fun, let's be a little creative, let's not take ourselves too seriously and do a lot of really weird, creative, cool things. It also had things like, they had these things called like Spec Ops, I think, where you would do like local multiplayer little co-op missions where you do a bunch of breaching. Breaching was really cool. You put explosive on the door, it blows up, you go in, you're like a little slow motion thing, got to shoot all the guys in the room. It's very cool. The story in this game is, I would say, again, the story in Call of Duty games doesn't matter, but the plot, it does. And it's kind of like the overall vibe isn't super important. I always thought the story was kind of dumb, honestly, the way it ended in Modern Warfare. The fact you have this slow motion thing take place on this overpass and you shoot the guy and he just happens to be right there. It felt kind of, well, it was, it's action hero movie bullshit, whatever, for a game that's apparently trying to be as realistic as possible. But in any case, I won't fault them too hard on that. But yeah, no, here, the classic regenerating red health bar or red screen is back, but now it's like you have red jam and jelly all over your face. The guns are back and better than ever. You have an increased inventory, as I was saying, a lot more shotguns now. The main biggest change that they did is that instead of having shotguns be a primary weapon, they're now actually a secondary weapon in multiplayer. So that means that leaves room for a new class for your riot shield, and that becomes kind of your agility class if you want to play like that, or other new perks that allow you to do a lot of really cool things. Things like increased knife distance, ninja, unable to be detected on radar, Juggernaut is back, all that good stuff that give you extra damage, and how you select your perks really builds out your classes. And in this game, if you made it all the way to level 100 in multiplayer and prestige, you unlock more class slots to do other cool stuff. I don't think I've ever prestiged in any multiplayer game because once I get to level 100, I feel like I'm done and I don't have to do it anymore. And I feel the impulsion to get to the top level, for every time. So I really am glad that, I don't actually essentially have to do it again. And a game that incentivizes you to do it again, I don't just want to be part of that. But yes, the story, essentially, it's a few years after the first Call of Duty. You are now playing as a new recruit, Roach, and you essentially, follow Soap McTavish, who was, the main character you were playing as in the SCS in the first game. You finally can put a face to the name and the voice. And of course, the really great voice acting is back again in this one. And also on the US side, you play as the military, the Marine Ramirez. And as the meme goes, you get ordered around to do everything possible in the game and in the game world itself. So it's interesting. So essentially, what happens is there's a extended plot that there was another essentially Russian contact that was selling these weapons of mass destruction, and you need to basically pick up the trail and track down, this new lead. Which this game was also very controversial when it came out because it had this big thing, which I think was honestly partially, how do I say, staged or blown up because for their own aspect, where essentially you have to play this mission where you shoot up a airport of helpless hostages. And it says, oh, this is such a bad, awful, evil thing. It's for shock value. And they even ask you when you boot up the game if you want to skip that scene initially. So Makarov is the name of the new kind of antagonist. And, despite the previous guy being killed, he's now considered a martyr in that country. So now this is the new bad guy, and of course the SAS is tracking him down while the US deals with their own timeline, which very funnily enough is a US, or rather a Russian invasion of the US. And so you have to end up attacking and defending a bunch of American suburbs from Russian NPCs and all this other cool stuff, and kind of inspired by the Cold War propaganda idea of Russia doing a huge land invasion. And so that is kind of the main drive for that timeline. And eventually, of course, both these timelines sync up at the end, and they try to have a big climactic finish. And I'd have to say, it's actually a really great end game. The way that the game ends and the way that it pulls it towards the ending and the twist is actually really satisfying and very, very kind of unique and cool. I guess on the level itself, where you have to shoot up the airport, it's honestly extremely boring because, well, you just slow walk through a cinematic thing and you just basically pull the right trigger, and it's incredibly boring until you can actually, shoot enemies that shoot back at you, and it's not just a boring like little segment. But of course, it was done for shock value and for the and the story. It's actually a false flag to basically escalate the tensions between the Americans and the Russians and the international community at large. It's funny actually because that level, actually the airport level multiplayer is one of my favorite levels. Oh my god, the multiplayer in this game. The maps are so good. I mean, you have a few returning maps from Call of Duty 1, but the map design in this game is just amazing. It is just so much fun and so good. Everything from Afghan to Terminal to all of the maps are just amazingly made. There's nothing else I can really say about it. It's just really, really cool and really, really good. Again, I would think the multiplayer in this game is definitely better than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, and just the amount of perks and maps and possible gameplay elements and all the chaos of the map, and also the fact you can now customize your kill streak, and there's 15 or so different kill streaks, is just the coolest thing. So we have everything from Apache helicopters to jets to stealth bombers to EMPs, and of course the infamous nuke if you get something crazy like 25 kills in a row without dying. The riot shields were never really much used in multiplayer. They were kind of a joke or meme class. There was one strategy, though, that you could use with them, which was that for some reason, if you had a throwable knife or tomahawk attached, you could quickly just throw it out from behind the shield without having to switch. But mostly the shield guys just took the brunt of most of the damage. And the thing is, the shield just slowed you down so much, it really wasn't worth it in a multiplayer sense. But it is fun to use and just to experiment and see what happens. Again, the campaign will take you around the globe to different locations and to a very interesting, final confrontation. I would think actually my favorite level in this game and in multiplayer is Estate. It's this essentially kind of a place in like almost the Appalachians, like in the mountainous foresty region, and it just looks really, really nice and really cool. Speaking of just the color scheme there, the whole sort of fall aesthetic. One of the neat things in this game that they did is that depending on the amount of headshots you got, in multiplayer at least, you basically got a different skin for each gun, and I think it went. Oh god, if I can remember this, it was desert, winter, digital, no, woodland before digital, then blue tiger, then red tiger, and then fall in Modern Warfare 2. Fall was the new color, and I think for some weapons you would get gold as one of the skins, and the golden AK was very iconic for Call of Duty, as well as the golden shotgun and the golden Desert Eagle. It's funny too when I think about this game in terms of its skill set. It was considered to be basically, a more casual version of Counter-Strike, which I found very interesting, essentially. So, even though this game it did take a certain amount of skill, it's like it was never really outskilled by the classic Counter-Strike. Something else I introduced in this game, there was an automatic shotgun that was super fun to use. I usually do that with my Riot Shield. And it's interesting too, because as you unlock the different, colors and skins for your guns, it adds a certain aesthetic and style to the game, and like to your personality for how you pull out and fill out those missions and that aesthetic. So, for example, for my main class, I had the FAMAS. The FAMAS was always a weapon that I always loved using in multiplayer games, mainly because, honestly, it was essentially the weapon. No, actually, it was because of Metal Gear Solid. I'm lying. It's because it was the weapon that Snake used in the Metal Gear series, and I was like, oh, okay, that is Snake's weapon. And it has a very unique, interesting design. So I always associated with Metal Gear, essentially. And so, yeah, I would always have the FAMAS as my assault rifle. My secondary would be something like a Glock or Glock 17. And that was my all-rounded. For my submachine gun, I know in Call of Duty 1 I used an MP5. In this game, I don't really remember which one I went for. Probably the P90, I think. I'm not sure. I think this game lets you dual wield P90s. This game had a lot of very silly dual wielding options that were very fun, honestly. And of course, I put out a bunch of stuff on usually my submachine guns, like a silencer at the least, and a bunch of other stuff to be like my technical special class for when I need to do something weird or something. Then LMG was support, and usually I would go with the SAW in both games, I believe. And that always comes with a pair of either, C4 or RPGs or something to take down enemy equipment or other things like that. And that kind of became the demolition class. And then my agile class was the Riot Shield. And again, as I said, with the automatic shotgun and the knife trick, or tomahawk trick rather, for behind the shield. And then my final class was, of course, my sniper class, and I again was using a semi-auto sniper with extra damage so that I could hopefully get, one-shot headshots off, which was always felt really, really good. And I remember also for my secondary weapon for my sniper class, it would either be, for this one I was able to use akimbo magnums, which was really funny. And the big thing that I remember that happened, or that I used, is that they introduced in this game was fail streaks or something, or kill perks, or death perks rather. So, for example, if you died 5 times in a row for each different class, they would give you a different bonus. So, for example, I think there was Martyrdom, which was a normal class in Call of Modern Warfare 1, which was honestly extremely annoying. Because every time you died, you would drop a grenade, and now that would only happen every 5 deaths in a row. So if you were really painfully dying, you drop a grenade, showing how overpowered that perk was in order to give it to you at that point. But the main one for my assault class was Last Stand. So basically, there would be this thing where you would fall down on the ground, and you basically would have your pistol out, and you'd have a bit of health left, even if you've been killed. And so now you basically would have 5 to 10 seconds of life to get someone with your secondary pistol. And so, of course, I equipped my Desert Eagle in hopes that I would be able to take out, one more guy, or the guy who got you, which was a really, really fun perk. And, of course, they had another one where it was called Final Stand, where, again, after 5 deaths in a row, you go down and you basically take out people, and it was interesting and different because if you actually lived through that and you weren't hit at all during that time, you could actually get back up, which was really, really cool actually. They also introduced new explosives. My favorite one is actually they brought back it was specifically in the campaign in Call of Duty 4, where you used a lock-on Stinger missile to take out a bunch of tanks, and they actually let you bring that into multiplayer. And I remember just using that on normal infantry. I just thought it was so cool. I just love pulling out this giant thing and hearing this beep sound with the little green screen, and it would shoot the missile up in the air and it would come down like a few seconds later and make a huge explosion. And for some reason it rarely ever killed anyone, I guess just because of the placing and timing of everything, but I just loved using it. It was so much fun. I also love the fact that they made the Glock in Modern Warfare, like I think it was fully automatic. It was a machine pistol. There were also other weird guns you were introduced to, like I was saying, the 1887. There was also the Rafika burst fire machine pistol, which was really just really interesting stuff that if you weren't familiar with the gun world, which honestly most people weren't, and most kids felt like, ooh, I'm a firearms expert now that I've played Call of Duty. But that's honestly how you felt after playing the game. Like, okay, I know all about these guns and their cool attachments and things like that. I remember another thing, Tool, you had the Spaz 12 shotgun where you could put a silencer on it, which just was ridiculous. I remember I put a heartbeat sensor on my M21 Eber, and fall camouflage. I don't know. It was so cool. It was so fun and cool and aesthetic at the same time. This game really had peak multiplayer. I think I've said before that Bad Company 2 is my favorite multiplayer game of all time. It's really that one, Halo 2, and probably this game for shooters as my favorite multiplayer shooters. They are just unparalleled. Oh my god. No, High Rise I think it was called, the map where you have the helicopter pad and there's 2 apartment buildings. That was an epic map because you'd have these avenues down the sides, or if you wanted to be sneaky, you would go through the center and like in this underground part with all this equipment essentially. Also, the startup sound or the startup music for each round, if you were the U.S. Rangers, it was, Rangers lead the way. And I know that one was done by Hans Zimmer, and Hans Zimmer did the OST here. It was just a triumphant, orchestral, military-esque vibe, and it was just so cool, so much fun. And again, I said in my other review that even the quotes when you die, the death quotes in this game are really interesting. You have things from like Gandhi and like other U.S. generals and stuff. Like it was very cool, very, very energy, and very, very neat, nifty. Also, it's funny, again, I was talking about the pacing of this game. Like, we're already into the third level while you're the SAS and you're chasing down this other thing, and suddenly by the third level you're Ramirez, and suddenly like the US is invaded. Like there's no preamble, there's no, oh, what is Russia doing? Is Russia planning something? You're just invaded, deal with it. And it's like that's what I love and hate about the Call of Duty stories, is that they just jump all over the place, and again, the story doesn't matter, which is why I really have a tough time enjoying Modern Warfare 3, because it just doesn't, I just don't care. It's like, oh, what's gonna happen to Makarov? I don't care. And it's hard for Call of Duty to wrap up a story because it's just an excuse. Like they already have the levels planned and they just need an excuse to go there and do cool stuff. But it's like initially there's no reason. Like the reason doesn't really matter. It's about the pacing of the things that are happening. And that's why I really don't think I'm going to talk about Modern Warfare 3. I mean, I might if I replay it sometime, but I just remember it being a very nothing game, very forgetful. Like, they already invaded America, so like the next one they invade New York, and it's just like it's just boring. It's just like I don't care. I do not care, and it's just whatever. The other issue with Modern Warfare 3 was that, I know, that's when the guns kind of felt all the same. They introduced like, oh, now you have 2 scopes on the same weapon, so now you can like zoom in if they're too far away. But like that's like a Battlefield thing. Like you never have to zoom in if they're too far away. That's like these are arena shooters more or less. Like they're meant for high speed, high octane, close quarters or medium quarters combat. So the multiplayer never vibed with me. I remember I played Modern Warfare 3 and I just never liked it. I didn't vibe with it. It was just like, this is not interesting. And the campaign wasn't interesting. It was like, spoilers. What's his face? Captain Price dies in some way. I don't even remember how, really. He gets shot or something. And then Makarov gets killed at the end. It's like, okay, great, happy ending. But yeah, it's just like there's no real vibe or energy to it. It's kind of like they ran out of creative juice or power, and we're just focusing on selling more games. And I find it's hilarious because even in the Modern Warfare 3 remake, like the campaign, they do not care about it whatsoever, to the extent that basically it was like super short, only a few hours. And apparently what happened was that like Captain Price dies in the lamest way possible, and it has the gall to end on a cliffhanger. The remake of Call of Duty of Modern Warfare 3 is just abysmal. But yeah, again, I have not played the remakes of this one or the other one. Apparently, where Ghost has more of a larger role in the story, and he's not just a cool, silent, side background character like a Boba Fett kind of thing. Speaking of that, there's that campaign, and there is the ending to this game, which is really cool. But yeah, the campaign of the remakes just seems awful and really boring and tedious. And they try to do the whole same shock value thing where like you have to like rescue these hostages in this home, but it's not nearly as controversial, and it's just everyone knows they're doing it for shock value at this point, and no one cares, sadly. But the ending of this game is really, really great because it turns out you were betrayed by a certain character, and you basically have to hunt them down. And the last aspect of this game, the last two levels, the one where you're in the estate level in the forest, and the second one where you're like on a raft going through this canyon, and the game ends with honestly an epic QTE. I hate QTEs, but when it's more ceremonial, it feels better rather than what they do with Call of Duty 4, where they actually give you gameplay and it's supposed to be like a challenge, but it's like you're already past the challenge. So if you do a QTE, it has to be ceremonial, and everyone remembers the ending of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It's really cool. It's Kino. It's great. It's really nice. Also, it's just funny that the American version is just like a parody at this point. That like, I don't know, you literally like, it's like peak American imperialism. Despite the fact you're being invaded in Russia, half of the main level of Ramirez, or the series of his levels, revolve around guarding a restaurant called Burger Town. It's just the funniest thing to me, where it's like almost self-aware but not quite. Oh my god, I forgot this game introduced things like turrets, which were super cool, and thermal sights, and there were just so many cool, really nifty like technologies and aesthetics, and just and predator missiles. Oh my god, those were so much fun. Yeah, I don't know. This game was Call of Duty, but on steroids. It's like, hey, let's take a shooter and make it modern day and do like all this cool stuff with it. So even though you're mowing down guys kind of mindlessly, you now have more really cool tools on how to use that. Man, talking about this game, it brings back a lot of good memories. I mean, it's really, really great. It's definitely one of the best shooters ever made in terms of multiplayer and even single player. And I hope we get to see like more of something like this. But it goes to show how different and divergent Call of Duty is, and I don't really feel like talking about the future games after this besides the Treyarch ones, to be honest. And I think that's really because they lost the magic, they lost the innovation, they just kind of were doing the same thing. And even though they like developed this whole thing, they're like, oh, we're in space now, we're doing like jetpacks and you can jump off the wall like it's Apex Legends and all this stuff. Before Apex Legends was the thing, it's still just not super duper engaging. It's you have all of this noise in the screen, and honestly, I might as well talk about it here since I'm not ever going to review it. But where it really ended was I think Black Ops 2, where took place in the future, and And it just felt just, I mean, actually, I'll talk about that in the Black Ops review, I think, but it just felt so empty and derivative and contrived. And I just didn't care for it at all. And all the guns sounded the same. But yeah, I think I'll talk about that in my Black Ops review. But yeah, this is a peak shooter, and all the cool technology and weapons and like everything, like it was huge. This was like a proper sequel to an award-winning game for another award-winning game. And for some reason, Modern Warfare 3 only survived off the fumes over its fake rivalry with Battlefield 3, which is a game I preferred Battlefield 3 to Modern Warfare 3, but yeah. Um, Not sure what else to say about this game. I think I've said enough. I think you get the gist of what I'm going for. It's still a game I would play today, and it still looks and feels really, really cool. But and it's sad to see what's become of the remakes and how it's become a battle royale, like Warzone, cosmetic looter shooter that just wants your wallet and money, which is very sad. But that's, I guess, how things go. Anyway, guys, I will see you later. And yeah, this is a classic. Bye.